Tonight, the Premier takes to the air for a first-hand look at the flood crisis gripping northern New South Wales. Around Grafton, homes and businesses have been inundated, the Clarence River peaking at just over 8 metres. In Lismore, the clean-up has begun for some homeowners, and many more remain cut off.
This is PRIME7 News with Fiona Ferguson.
Good evening. Also making news tonight, police investigate separate armed robberies and a helping hand for bushfire-affected farmers. But first tonight, residents have started the huge task of cleaning up after the storms. Gale force winds created damage right across the north coast. The council bill is already estimated at $500,000.
Sunshine this morning was a small ray of hope. After 2 days of wind and rain, locals finally have a chance to clean up. Streets are littered with fallen trees and leaves. For the Rickenbergs, it was a very lucky escape after this 15-metre tall gum tree came crashing through their roof.
It's all that sounded like a big, you know, you get that big clever thunder real close. It's just what it was like.
I noticed it starting to sway a lot, and half an hour after that, over it went.
The couple in their 80s returned with their family to assess the damage.
Oh dear, could do without this.
Esther had been standing in the living room just moments before.
Normally Esther's sitting in there, because she can see all that hill and everything there.
The SES responded, boarding up the room, the extensive damage forcing the couple to leave. They weren't alone in the clean-up. Homes and streets are still covered in debris.
We've had reports of trees down all over the place, and we haven't even got to some of the rural areas where there are trees blocking roads.
First estimates put the damage bill at $500,000. Free greenway services will also be offered in the coming days. The clean-up will now turn to those flood-affected as the water subsides. In Lismore, Leonie Keane, PRIME7 News.
Lismore City has had a very lucky escape, with flood waters peaking at 9.3 metres, just short of the flood levy. Parts of the region are still cut off, the high water blocking hundreds of roads.
It was a nervous wait for many locals. Dozens of people gathered at the Browns Creek pumping station, anxiously watching on as the water levels increased. The digital flood clock counting down the metres, waiting to see if the levee would be breached. The Wilson River calmed overnight and floodwaters peaked at 9.3 metres, falling just short of the wall.
As you can see here, it's within 1.4 metres of going over the wall and it's dropping. So Lismore has actually been saved again by the wall.
Not all areas of Lismore were safe from rising water. Trinity Catholic College is on low-lying ground and went underwater. Half of the school is submerged. Homes in North Lismore are expected to be isolated for the next few days, though locals here are prepared for the worst. Some did choose to evacuate, while others stayed to defend their properties. Boat patrols are being conducted in the area. The SES have continued to help people, with 26 rescues performed in the Lismore region since Sunday. Last night was no different. A man was rescued on Bangalow Road after he tried to drive through flood waters. An SES boat was dispatched to help. His small hatchback was no match for the fast-flowing water.
I'll come and get his car later.
Down the road, and just moments later, another car was pulled from trouble. This time on Dawson Street, a young family tried driving through the flooded road. 1,033 calls for assistance have now been made to the SES.
We ask people not to drive through floodwater. It is risking not only their own lives, but the people that are going out there to save them. So please think sensibly and drive sensibly.
Road closures are in place right across the north coast. The Pacific Highway is cut off between Grafton and Ballina and at Tweed Heads. All roads into Queensland are shut. Bangalow Road remains closed. The SES are advising not to drive unless it's necessary. In Lismore, Leonie Keane, PRIME7 News.
While Grafton and Lismore are feeling the full force of the storm system, communities further south have fared slightly better. They've sustained minor flooding but have escaped any serious damage.
For residents in the Macleay Valley, there was welcome news this morning after the Bureau of Meteorology revised down its previous flood predictions. Continued heavy rainfall meant the Macleay River was expected to peak at 5.7 metres, but with the downpour easing, it's now been revised down to 4.6, slightly above the minor flood level of 4.5 metres.
We haven't had the problems that they are experiencing up north. We do have minor flood warnings on the Macleay, Hastings and now Camden Haven River this morning, so relatively compared to other areas, we're doing okay.
And while the flooding is only minor, its effects were still seen in Riverside Park today. The significant rise in water levels also forcing the closure of several roads.
The level will probably stay there just purely for the amount of water that's in the river at the moment that's still waiting to come down and through Kempsey. So we will see this level for an extended period of time.
It's amazing what a difference 24 hours can make. Just yesterday, water was flowing at least a foot under Sherwood Bridge. And now, as you can see from behind me, it's well and truly underwater. Further south and in Port Macquarie, strong winds left debris strewn across the streets, but it was an amazing sight on the coast which had everyone's attention as a sea foam covered Oxley Beach. The phenomena attracted a big crowd, even a few who were willing to get up close and personal. The SES says the worst of the storm front is now over, but with floodwaters remaining across large sections of the north coast, residents are reminded to exercise caution. Ben Hennessy, Prime 7 News.